All right. That's all right. I mean, we have quite a few people. We have 67. That's almost like 3/4 of this class anyway. All right. So anyway, post in your initial question in there. And then going back to, sorry, got derailed. Okay. Can you all see Packback?
Yes.
All right. Good. Anybody not see Packback on here?
I cannot.
All right. So anyway, ask your
something
question.
that says the Psych 100, but it says Packback there.
Oh,
like
okay.
how to register it on
I
Packback.
see. I think I see what's happening here. Okay. Still getting a grasp on technology. Packback. Here we go. That's not it. Community feed, share. Okay. You should all see finish setting up your community. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So anyway, ask a question. That's the first thing you're going to do. Ask a question. It's going to give you these 3 areas. So your question will go in here. Your description goes in here. Your citation goes in here. Okay. Once you've done that and everything is quality and kosher and good, you're gonna that is 6 points right there, up to 6 points based on the quality. And you'll get a feel for this. This week I'm not going to grade too heavily on it, so but you'll get a feel for what other people are doing. And like example here, Fahim asked, does anyone have the same enrollment link for the book from Pearson? Okay, you know, I did say anything goes. So, you know, that's all right. All you really have to do for this week, I don't want you to stress out about it. I just want you to get comfortable using it. So all you're required to do today or by the end of this week is just, and it looks like I have 86 people that did that already, is just respond to my question. If you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to, okay? But this is what your post should look like, and then go through and answer this. And then next week, you're going to be asking your own question and doing similar to what I did, and then answering 2 other students. That's where your other 4 points are going to come from. So if you answer only 1 student, you're going to get 2 points for participation because you only did half the work. If you did, if you responded to 2, you'll get 4 participation points, which is a total of 10 points. Okay. And that's just going through here and answering these. All right. Does that make sense? All right. Any questions? All right. Bree, how are we doing? Any questions in the chat that I can address?
No, I'm just answering one right now about APA.
Okay.
Or are we just asking a question and then just sending it out?
All right. You're a little choppy there, Alina. Can you say that one more time?
I'm sorry. I was saying that like earlier, I think you were saying something about a resource or using I guess like a citation. Like, was it for the question, or were you just talking about for like the one assignment that we did, like with the variables, like the essay? I mean.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no. That's all the questions. That's I had.
Okay. So one of the things, and this is going to really benefit you to get more comfortable with doing this, is substantiating what you're writing with where you're getting it from. Okay. Because in science, we want to know, we're not all doctors, right? We don't all have degrees or publications, so we're not necessarily experts. So everything we talk about and everything we say comes from some other source, either peer-reviewed journal or dissertations or a textbook or something. So to that end, anything that you really post as fact or as anything substantiating your point in a topic has to come from somewhere. So just get used to citing that and saying, you know, I think based on what the textbook says, yada, yada, yada. Great, you identified the textbook. Now tell me what textbook it is in a reference, okay? So for your papers, that's going to show up in a reference page. That's going to be a completely separate page at the end of your assignment. And again, I'm not going to be too much of a stickler on it as long as I see that you're giving it a shot on your first assignment. But having a separate reference page and then following within D2L, I'll show you where this is one more time.
And you're talking about this for the essay, correct?
Yes, yeah. And
Okay,
essays, yep, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was okay for the essay. I'm saying like for the post, like where it's like for when you ask a question,
Mhm.
Do you have to use any sort of like resource or like citation? I mean, that's what I was saying. Or
Yes.
are we just asking a question?
Yes, for full points, you want to have those three components. You want your question, you want a description of your question, like where you got your, where you developed your question from. And, you know, it could be anything. Like for, for today, what are different ways of conducting research? We're dealing with conducting research in chapter 1. So it would just make sense that you could use just like a little description, a little bit further information in that big text box in PackBack, and then a citation, usually your textbook at the bottom there. Okay, so there are three text box when you ask a question that'll show up. Just fill in all three of those and you'll get full points. Okay,
So all of our questions has to come from the text?
they could come from, no, they can come from your mind. You create the question, and it could be a question that you actually legitimately have, or maybe it's a question that you know and you just want to ask other students.
You said the citations at the bottom of the pages.
Yep, the citation within PackBack, you mean?
Like that's what I'm saying. Like from the textbook, I'm saying from the textbook the citations. You said they're at the bottom of the pages.
Yeah. Does let me see what this says here. Oh, I don't want to request a demo. I don't know why it's doing this. I'll show this to you one more time. Okay. Oops, I didn't want to poll. So when you go in here to ask your question, there it goes. So the first text box is your actual question, just a one sentence question. Your description of why you're curious about this, or maybe something that you read in the textbook that led you to this question, or maybe you're just saying we're talking about this and this is what came up. Just give me a little brief description as to why you're asking that question, okay? And then cite your source down here. It'll say cite your source. You can use the textbook, put the source as your textbook down here, okay? And try and do APA format with that. And if you need help with that, that's what I was coming back to show you. Ask a question. PackBack. And sorry, I'll be right back with you here. There it is. So for your resources, if you want to know how to do APA, you click on content in D2L and then course content. I listed a lot of APA sources here, okay? One of them is Purdue OWL. You get into Purdue OWL, and you can either open it up in your own. I might actually change this to make it open as an external link. But your window should open up and it'll look something like this. So reference list. If you do basic rules for reference list, this is going to tell you exactly what a reference page is. And it's going to give you different examples. Oh, maybe not here. Let me go one down here. So for example, we have our textbook. This is what an APA reference looks like, okay? And this is what you should have in your reference page for your assignments. This is what you'll have in your packback. But you have your author, you have the year of the publication, and you have the title and then the publisher. Okay, pretty simple, and that's throughout. Now, if you get into looking at articles and periodicals like Psychology Today or something, a little bit different, not much, but you'll have your author, you'll have your year, you'll have the title of the article, and then have the title of the and DOI. And again, close approximation, I'm not looking for perfection here. I just want to see that you're picking up where to do this and where to look to get this information, okay? All right, any other questions before we move on? Bree, how are we doing in the chats?
Students are asking how they see their responses on Packback.
How they see their own responses on Packback?
I do have a question.
Hey, Antoinette.
I do have a question.
All right, hold on a second. I got somebody bleeding in here. Everybody make sure you're on mute. Okay. Anybody, did somebody have a question?
Yes, I did.
All right, who's this?
Internet.
Okay, hi Antoinette.
For the assignment, I tried to upload it from my mom's computer with because she has Microsoft on her thing. But when I tried to go into it and upload it, the option for me saving, I couldn't put it on there. It wouldn't upload. The option wouldn't pop up for me to upload it.
Okay. So let me walk you through this and see if we can figure out what's happening.
Can the questions be opinion questions? If we thought of an opinion type and we asked the class to respond to that opinion, can we do that?
I don't know what you mean by opinion. What's your opinion on something?
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be perfectly fine as long as you're substantiated in that description and you're letting me know where you're getting information. Like I said, those 3 boxes have to be filled out for full credit. So just make sure if you're asking opinion from your class, get some background as to why you're asking that question, and then if it's from the textbook, put that as a source. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what was I showing you? Yeah. Assignment. So week 1, go to assessments. Assignment number 1. Click on that. And now this week, it's going to be, again, I explained, this is going to look a little bit differently. This is going to actually populate in a discussion, all right? All your other ones from now on will be a Dropbox, so you'll see a button that just says submit. So for this one, you're going to start a new thread, and then just put a subject in here. Just say assignment 1 and maybe your last name or something. And then down here, you're going to attach a file. So you hit attach, and you can either drag it. Antoinette, you asked this question, right? Who asked this question? They had an issue with uploading? Antoinette? Yeah.
Yes.
So did you get to this screen here where it gives you the option to upload?
Yeah, and then I went to upload and then attach a file, but it popped up Outlook and then the different ones, but the ones that I used didn't pop up, and then I didn't know how else to upload it.
Okay. What browser are you using?
So I use my mom's Microsoft. She has Outlook too. So that's why I was saying when I tried to upload it from the Outlook, it wouldn't it didn't pop up.
Okay. I don't know so Outlook is an email tool, right?
Okay.
So you may need to save it to her computer and then upload it,
Like save it to like this computer?
or whatever computer you're uploading it to.
Yeah, I mean like that's what the thing says, like when you save like this computer.
Okay. See, I'm gonna try. So you're emailing it to yourself, and then you're trying to send it via email. Is that, see, because I'm able to do that. I'm pulling something directly from my email, and it's attaching. So I'm not. I would get with ESU IT and ask them what's going on, because you should. I mean, I'm not having any issues. Anybody else having issues uploading using this?
If you save it to your computer and then put it in like a file, you can just upload it from your computer that way if it's not working by your email.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And if you have any other issues, Nick, would you, Antoinette, if you have any questions, like put it in D2L, and maybe Nick can help you out with that or something. But I think IT would be very helpful to answer if you're having issues uploading. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions, issues here? I know I had a lesson kind of planned today, but again, just in response to a lot of emails I'm getting, I just want to see if I can clarify everything. So, all right. Last thing I want to show you today. You know, we're talking about week 1 in psychology as a science and research. We have, you know, our scientific method of developing a research question, right? What's a research question? Anybody that's done the reading, who wants to answer? What is a research question?
Like it's the general question that they ask.
Okay, yeah. So a research question comes from, let me share my screen with you so I can show you some notes. So a research question comes from a problem. Now, our problem is usually derived from society, okay? So we may have, for example, right now, I mean, we have a lot of social issues and cultural issues that we're encountering. We're seeing it in the media. We're seeing it in our hometowns, right? Either with COVID or race or gender or just you pick. I mean, there are just so many issues that we can identify as problems. So, like for example, let's identify problem number 1. I think probably a great example of problem number 1 would be women in the workplace don't make as much as men. Oops, money. As men, right? That's our problem. We've identified this as the problem. All right. Women may have a harder time getting bank loans because they don't have as much income as the average male, right? So that's a sociological problem. We've identified that problem. So now we can come up with a question of that problem. So why don't women make as much as men? Okay. So why aren't they making as much money as men? So we want to determine, well, exactly what does this problem mean? What does this question mean? So the best way to do this is to develop a hypothesis. Now our hypothesis is very hypothesis. Yeah. Okay. Hypothesis. So our hypothesis, put simply, is really an educated statement based on a research question, okay? So our hypothesis would be similar. We have our question, we have our problem, we go out into the article reviews or the articles in different journals. We look at scientific journals, we look at sociological journals, anything that we can get our hands on that are going to help us answer our questions. And I'm going to talk about how you do these searches here in just a little bit. But based on our hypothesis, we're going to say, or based on the information that we find, we're going to say our hypothesis is women earn average of $10,000 less than their male counterparts in the US, okay? That's very specific, okay? And based on what we found, we can state that it's a statement. It's not necessarily a question. It's based on our question. But our hypothesis is very specific, and it tells us what we're going to be looking for in either our research or our experiments or whatever. And you know, I was kind of hoping for time to go over the different types of research, but they're all in your book, and you should be pretty well read up on that stuff, because we have our correlation studies, we have our experimentation, right? We have all these ways of conducting research. We can do surveys, we can do observations, we can do longitudinal studies, right? Any one of those methods we're going to pick to test our hypothesis, because that's our next step, is testing our hypothesis. So how do we do a test of our hypothesis? We have to develop our way of collecting data. All right. And that could be one of those ways I mentioned: surveys, questionnaires, observations, psychological tests, interviews, whatever you decide is going to be the best way to test your hypothesis. So in order to do that, you're going to come up with what's called a method. Who are your participants? What measures are you going to use? Are you going to use a questionnaire? If so, what is that questionnaire? What is the population that you're seeking out? Okay, so that's different from participants, because you want a representation of whatever your population is going to be. So all these are going to be spelled out in how you're going to test your hypothesis. All right. So moving along the research track here. Oh, I don't even know if I was drawing on an actual whiteboard. I don't know what that was. Interesting. All right. So after our methods, after we we're going to collect our data, from however we decided to collect it, and then we're going to analyze the results. And then we're going to conclude whether or not our hypothesis was either rejected or supported, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? So our initial hypothesis, remember, it's a statement, was what? Women earn average of 10,000 less than men in the US. So based on what we tested, did we support that? Can we say we support this hypothesis, or are we going to reject? So maybe we went through this whole thing because, remember, we were just asking a question, and now we're going to answer that question. Are we going to support or reject that? Maybe we did research and we didn't find anything. And that could be for various reasons. Maybe that nothing exists. Maybe we didn't look in the right area. Maybe we didn't have the right participants. Whatever that is, you know, that's going to come out in our conclusion, in our summary, okay? So in a nutshell, that's how we conduct research, all right? Now let's talk about correlation. I do want to mention this because I think I had some questions as far as what is correlation. So correlation, put simply, is that we have a relationship between two variables, okay? Variable number one, there's a relationship with variable number two. Right? So what are some examples of things that have correlations? Anybody want to take a guess? Anything that has a relationship with one. If one changes, the other one changes with it. Maybe use an example from your book. Who's got an example? Who's brave?
They're saying in the textbook, it says, if researchers find cigarettes a person smokes, the younger the person was, then I get, hold on, sorry, I'm like reading whatever I wrote.
Okay.
Hold on, sorry, never mind.
Oh.
I'm
That's okay. I got somebody in the chat here that brought something up. Let me see what it says. The more you study, the better your grades get. Absolutely. So time studied, right? So say we want to know, is studying related to better grades, right? So here's variable one. Variable number one is time study. Variable number two is maybe GPA or test grades or whatever, okay? Whatever you want to find. That's our question. Now, our hypothesis is going to be based on research. We're going to go through our research and look to see if anybody has done anything similar. And if they have, we can introduce all those theories and all those ideas into this research. But we can say, based on what we read, our hypothesis would be that the more hours, like if a person studies 1 hour more a day, their GPA will go up 0.5 or something like that, 0.5 points. That would be a solid hypothesis. And you can even get a little bit more specific and say high school or college or just in general. So anyway, what is our suspicion here? What if we increase time study, what can we expect GPA grades to do?
Increase.
Increase, exactly. So there we have just described a relationship. Now this is called a positive correlation, okay? Positive correlation is when one goes up, then the other goes up. The other variable goes up or increases, all right? Or if one goes down, like time study goes down, we would expect GPA to go down. That's a positive correlation. Now, within your correlation, you have a correlation coefficient. Your correlation coefficient starts at 0. 0 describes no relationship whatsoever, okay? We don't expect, like if time study goes up, GPA doesn't even budge, okay? That would be more representative of a 0. Now, if we have a positive relationship, that means exactly what we described. As one goes up, the other one goes up. One goes down, the other one goes down, right? That's a positive relationship, and that's represented on a 1.0, positive 1.0. Now, this rarely ever happens in psychology. This is where I talked about where psychology is more of a soft science, and that's because this would be 100% of the time this occurs, and that very rarely happens in psychology, okay? On the opposite end of the spectrum, let's do a different example here. Maybe instead of saying time studied, we're going to say, marijuana use. Okay. So I'm going to just say THC. So THC, if we see an increase, if one person reports, I'm sorry, if a group of people report an increase of use of THC, what would we just suspicion expect GPA or grades to do?
Decrease.
Decrease. Okay, that's our suspicion. Now, I'm not going to go into any details on that. Okay, so this describes a negative correlation, and the reason being is because one goes up, we see an increase on the other, we see a decrease on the other, but they're related. Okay, if we see a decrease on one variable and we see an increase on the other, they're still related. That's a negative correlation, which is represented as a negative 0.1. Again, perfect scenario. All right. So usually we'll see somewhere in between here, like a negative 0.6 or a positive 0.7 or something like that. Usually that's where we see a strength in correlation. But if we adjust variable one, or if variable one adjusts at all, and we see that reflected in variable two, that would be a relationship. Okay. Are we good so far? All right. So with correlation coefficient, like I said, describes the strength to which we can experience a relationship between the two variables. Now, there's this funny thing that happens, okay? That we make an assumption that if one variable changes, the other one changes, then there is that variable one is affecting variable two. Okay, that is a false assumption, and it needs to be tested through experimentation, which hopefully I'll have time to talk about here. Here's a good example of what I heard as just because there is a relationship doesn't necessarily mean that there is one is causing the other. Okay, so these are just showing that the possible explanation is one variable causing the other one to change. Right? Maybe variable two is causing variable one to change. You know, we don't know, again, until we get through experimentation. The third option is that one variable is changing, but it has nothing to do with that variable changing whatsoever. Okay, for example, one study I saw in the media was that men who shave live longer. I'm going to put it on two sides here just so I can walk you through this. Longer life. Okay, has anybody heard that before? So men who shave live longer. So the assumption is that if I shave, I'm going to increase my lifespan, right? That's what we would think based on what we heard in that report. However, what they were talking about had nothing to do with shaving increasing your life. What they talked about was shaving led men to marriages or relationships and also saw an increase in jobs, in employability. Now, that's really even loosely put, because maybe men who shave are more proud about themselves and more confident and therefore more employable, right? There might be even looser connections in there that are causing men to be employed, okay? So men that are in relationships and employed have lower stress. That was shown in journals, right? Men who have less stress have decreased chronic health issues like heart disease or diabetes. And again, that might have something to do with self-care, right? And of course, we do know that these two factors lead us to longer life, right? That was quite a jump. That was really a big jump. But what that's saying is we see an increase in men who shave and an increase in longer life. We would make the assumption that if we shave, we would live longer. But all of these things have to happen in order for that to occur. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap up here today by showing you, did I show you the Kemp library and how to access access the database?
No.
Okay, so let's do that quickly here before we leave here today. All right, so if we go into D2L, at the very top, I've included several links here. As I explained, we have the Zoom link if you want to get into our Zoom sessions. You have Tutor and Writing if you want to get in contact with them for APA help. And then we have Kemp Library. So when you go into Kemp Library, off to the right-hand side, you'll have databases. So click on databases. Now for our class, You can use what you like. I strongly recommend using psych articles because it's pretty neat and clean. It's got a lot of psychological stuff in there that you'll find useful. So click on psych articles, and you'll have to log in using your drop-down menu, hit East Stroudsburg, and use your login for whatever it is you log into D2L or log into Wirefish or whatever. Okay, so get into that. And I might have to update my password. Hoping not.
Do we just use our ESU login and password for that?
Yep. But make sure you hit institution East Stroudsburg University. Yep. Gosh darn it. Okay. So I have to remember what my password is. Crossing my fingers. All right, one more time here and then we'll move on. But anyway, this is how you get into the database. And I did change my password recently and apparently I had completely forgot it. Third time's a charm, right? Everybody cross your fingers. Do they have that emoji?
You probably already told us this, but what are we supposed to use this for? Like,
What your group projects or anytime that you want to look up an article. Somebody's got fingers crossed. Excellent. So when you get into psych articles and you log into this, you can put in anything. So like we want to see therapy, dogs, and PTSD. Just enter those like you would a Google search, and you'll have like in Google, you'll have a bunch of options that show up for you here. So just click on any of these. Now, don't get overwhelmed. I mean, these are written at a very high scientific level, so don't freak out when you see this stuff. Where you're going to be really getting your information from is the abstract. Okay, so go through this abstract. It's going to tell you in a narrative, a brief narrative of what this is about. And if you want more information, you want to know what these populations are, then you can kind of go through. And all of these have a very similar format. You have your introductions first, and then you have your hypothesis, which is usually right before your method. And this one's a rather long one. Don't be overwhelmed with how much information is here. You really want to scan through this stuff to find specifically whatever it is you're looking for your research. And maybe I'll go over this a little bit better next week, or if we have an assignment coming up that's going to require that. But that's just how you get into it for now, okay? Any questions for me before we depart today? Okay. If you do, I'm going to hang around just for a few minutes. I have another class coming up at 2. But if you need individualized attention, then stick around. Other than that, have a great weekend. We will not be meeting on Monday since it is a holiday. So I will see all of you Wednesday. So be safe, stay strong, and continue getting through this. We're done with week 1, everybody. So that's a plus. All right.
Have a great day.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Yep.
Have
Bye.
a good one. Have a good
Have a
one.
Nice day, everyone.